So here's a story that actually flew under my radar. I didn't pick it up until a couple days after it had happened, but it's still very relevant because it is still very stupid. So here's what happened. Last week, of course, Rudy Giuliani and MyPillow founder Mike Lindell, who Giuliani now pathetically works for, they did go to the DNC and they did their little video podcast from there. And at one point, Rudy Giuliani and Mike Lindell were lamenting the fact that, of course, Steve Bannon is currently in prison for defying a congressional subpoena, was convicted by a jury of his peers and sentenced to 4 months. He managed to not go to jail for, 2 years, but he fought it, delayed it, and now, at probably the most important point of his life, he has no voice in American politics. But that's not the only problem, because according to Rudy Giuliani, Steve Bannon is actually being tortured in prison. Now, that's a fairly big accusation to make against the Bureau of Prisons here in the United States, saying that a prisoner is literally being tortured. And I got to tell you, this form of torture seems pretty bad, because according to Rudy Giuliani, this form of torture is not letting Steve Bannon watch TV. That, according to Giuliani, amounts to torture. Don't believe me? Here is Giuliani in his own words telling you about the horrific things that Steve Bannon is experiencing. Take it away.
Who unfortunately can't hear this broadcast, which is an outrage. I ran the Bureau of Prisons in 2 capacities. First, I was absolutely in charge of it as the Associate Attorney General for 2 years under Ronald Reagan, and then I was the Chief of Staff of the guy who was in charge of it under Gerald Ford. I do not remember prisoners of his category not having access to television for occasional shows, special shows. Every once in a while, a prison would get nasty. I remember having to secure the rights for lifers to see the Pope. Imagine not letting them see the Pope. I mean, that's ridiculous. Steve Bannon, and let me tell you this, Steve Bannon is not being treated the way other prisoners are being treated. His case has been moved from the Bureau of Prisons to Crooked Attorney General Garland's office, and they're calling the shots because contacts that I have in the Bureau of Prisons have told me they've been taken out of the case. So he's being, let's say, tortured.
No.
And he'll be out. I'm sure he'll be able to talk all about it. Right. But boy, this election is about a fascist regime, and well, Steve Bannon is prime #1 victim.
It's torture. Rudy Giuliani says it's torture. He's got sources, by the way, inside the Bureau of Prisons, and they're telling him that the DOJ is saying, don't you dare let Steve Bannon watch TV, even if it's the Pope. God. What I love about that is that I'm not even exaggerating. Like, that is what this nut job said. Like, can you imagine that? They don't even let him watch the Pope. Okay, look, does Steve Bannon really give a damn what the Pope has to say on any given day? Is Steve Bannon waking up every day in prison thinking, oh, I hope the Pope doesn't make a major announcement. I'm going to miss it. Oh, shucks. No. Steve Bannon wants to watch TV. And apparently, according to Giuliani at least, he's not allowed to watch TV. Now, if you've ever either been in prison yourself or if you have spoken to people who have been in prison, here's how most prisons operate. I've never been in a prison for the record, but I do know people that have been, and all of them, even in different prisons in different states, have told roughly the same kind of story. There are TVs in common rooms, but it's usually one TV, and it's kind of a situation where whoever gets there first is going to be the one that gets to pick the channel. And if the person who originally picks the channel is maybe not the toughest person there, then somebody's going to come in later, snatch the remote, and put it on what they want to watch. So it's not that he's not allowed to watch TV. It's that he's not allowed to just leave it on Newsmax all day. Because I'm willing to bet a larger inmate is probably like, no, I don't want to watch this. We're going to tune it to something else. Maybe The Price is Right. I don't know. But that's not torture. In fact, getting to sit around all day and watch TV, even if it's not the show you want to watch, that's not even close to torture. I mean, it's not like Steve Bannon is sitting in prison being waterboarded. Okay, he's not being put on the rack and stretched 3 feet. This is insane. This is an absolutely ridiculous claim from Rudy Giuliani, who has fallen further from grace than any other human being I think I have ever seen. You're now going to bat for a convicted felon, while also, by the way, going to bat for another convicted felon who happens to be at the top of your presidential ticket. For what? These are the same people who love to go out there and tell us anytime they go on TV, do an interview, give a speech, whatever it is, these Republicans tell us that the Democrats are soft on crime. The Democrats are the ones letting criminals run the streets, and it's horrible. Trump told us last week that you can't walk across the street to go to get groceries without being shot or assaulted in some way or mugged. But either way, if you go to the grocery store, Trump said something bad is always going to happen to you because Democrats have let crime become out of control. And then these same people turn around, look at real criminals, people like Steve Bannon, who has been convicted, people like Donald Trump, who has been convicted, and tell us, oh, we got to have sympathy. These people shouldn't be locked away. They're not bad people. They're good people. Let them run the country. Let them have the biggest mouthpiece on the right. No, they are criminals. And if you want to sit around and get to pick what channel you watch on TV every day, then the best advice I can give you is don't break the law. Because if you're going to break the law, you're going to lose some of your freedoms and privileges that you enjoy as a private citizen. Steve Bannon should have thought about that before he defied a congressional subpoena. And if Steve Bannon didn't want to miss the most important election of his lifetime, then maybe he shouldn't have fought having to go serve his sentence for 2 years before he finally gave up exhausting his appeals. But he didn't. He did this to himself, both with the timing of his prison sentence and getting a prison sentence. All he had to do, the only thing Steve Bannon had to do, was comply with a congressional subpoena. They said, show up and give us documents. And he said, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do this. Y'all go to hell. He was defiant and he was arrogant. But more importantly, he was completely unremorseful. So when it came time for that trial, the jury looked at this man, looked at his actions, and they said, no, we're not going to find you not guilty of this. You did it intentionally. And you're acting kind of like, honestly, you'd probably do it again if you had the chance. So you are going to jail for this. Steve Bannon is paying the price for his actions. And once the price is paid, which is the end of his prison sentence, it's over. We move on. We're not going to sit here and harp on it all the time. But I can promise you, based on what Rudy Giuliani and Mike Lindell were saying in that segment there is going to be this big Steve Bannon gets out of prison welcome wagon. They're going to treat this man like a political martyr, even though he is anything but that. He is a convicted felon. He did this to himself. And they're going to treat him like a hero, all because he wasn't always allowed to watch TV for 4 months. Hi, everyone. This here is little Athena. And Athena would like to know why you haven't subscribed to Fair and Balanced yet. So please, don't let Athena down. Subscribe today.